What's up, guys? Welcome to Financial Freestyle here on Yahoo Finance, and it's your boy Ross Mack. Now, look, guys, whether you're a financial professional, a retail investor, or someone that's looking to improve their overall financial situation, there's always a first step you got to take. And guys, look no further, because I'm speaking to some of the most influential people in finance and learning about their pathway to economic prosperity. And in this episode of Financial Freestyle, I'll be revisiting some of my favorite moments from the show. First up, in my conversation with Van Jones, New York Times bestselling author, founder of the Dream Machine Innovation Lab, and CNN contributor. Van Jones sees technology as a powerful catalyst for change. And as the founder of the Dream Machine Innovation Labs, he's focused on harnessing AI, and that's what he called the Great Disruptor, to create opportunities for underserved communities. Take a quick listen.
I started Dream.org about 12 years ago. It used to be called Dream Corps. We got very good at bipartisan bridge building on tough issues that affect our community. So criminal justice reform, getting Republicans to help us on getting folks out of jail, climate issues, getting corporations to help us put up solar panels in the hood. Great experience. But what I've realized now is the divisions are so much bigger now than just what one federal bill can do. And so we spun off DreamMachine.org to take on bigger divisions that you can't fix with legislation in Congress. Biggest division that I see right now that's visible is the AI world and the Black world are almost completely different worlds, which makes no sense. Now, why do I talk about AI so much? People keep telling me, well, Van Jones, you keep talking about this stuff, but 99% of Black people don't know anything about AI. 99% of Black kids don't know anything about AI. I say, you know what? You're correct. And 99% of white folk don't either. 99% of white children don't either, which means this is the first time you're ever going to experience something called equality, okay? We're all equally ignorant about new stuff. This is reparations.
Yeah.
All we've ever asked is an even Steven shot. That's all we wanted. So every industry is going to be disrupted. I'd rather for us to be doing the disruption. Every industry is going to be disrupted. So what I say is, with DreamMachine.org, we launched a campaign called Make Wakanda Real. Make Wakanda real. Why? Because Wakanda is the only representation I've ever seen in cinema where Black people are using technology better than everybody else. Where Black people are using technology heroically better than anybody else. Why can't we make Atlanta Wakanda? Why can't we make Detroit Wakanda? Why can't we make Chicago, where you're from, Wakanda? We have the businesses, we have the churches, we have the community-based organizations. They're just not using tools that are readily available right now. And so we're starting something that we're calling the Dream Machine Tech Core, where we're going to be training young people to use this stuff and then deploying them into our churches, our community centers, our businesses, so that we can start giving ourselves an unfair advantage. See, what an AI tool does is it gives you an unfair advantage. You can write, but it can help you write faster. You can research, it can help you do research faster. You can write music, it can help you write music faster. You can make film, it can help you edit faster. All it's a jetpack.
Absolutely.
Now they're going to tell you that it's a hand grenade. It's going to be racist against you. It's going to take your job and put you in a fear mindset.
Absolutely.
That is the worst mindset to deal with the future. It's from a place of fear. You need to deal with the future from a place of faith, vision, direction, and purpose. Now, this is got to go alongside of financial literacy now. AI literacy and financial literacy got to go hand in hand.
It's important. It's an important conversation, and it's definitely the next frontier.
Do you use it? Are you hip to it yet? Or?
I use AI every day.
Tell me.
At a minimum, right, I'm using ChatGPT, and I think that, and I hate when you get the bad press about what AI is, right? You got Jensen Huang is telling you, look, AI is not going to replace jobs. People who know how to use AI will. And so that's the thing. You got to use it as an adversary. You got to use it as something that's going to help your skill set, as opposed to like, oh, I don't want to be dumb because I'm using a machine to think. No, the reality is, moving forward, I think one of the top jobs, there will be courses on this. People will be able to concentrate on this and insert any top university on AI prompt. Prompt engineering. You got to know how to talk to the computers in order to utilize it. And so, I think it's very important. But let's actually talk about how you are utilizing AI, especially when it comes to, enhancing different reform initiatives.
Good. Well, I mean, I think what you said about AI is not going to replace you. somebody knows how to use AI is going to replace you.
Absolutely.
Is the most important thing that we can come away with, because that gives people a reason to look at the stuff. And the great thing about it is you can go on YouTube and get tutorials for free, Reddit, and get tutorials for free on anything that you want to do. I like you use ChatGPT, and like you're saying, as it gets to know you, it's almost as like a digital assistant. Rather than thinking about it like the Terminator, think about it like C3PO or R2D2.
Yeah.
I mean, this is trying to help you. And so, I'm
Jarvis.
yeah, or Jarvis, even more
Yeah,
so
from
from the Avengers.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Iron Man's guy, yeah, Jarvis.
And I tell people all the time, it's like AI can be your Iron Man suit. You can pass up a whole bunch of people who maybe had other advantages, but you can close those gaps real fast if you're using ChatGPT. And then even like Suno. Have you heard of Suno?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can text prompt it and it'll write a song for you in 40 seconds with the music, with the whatever, the country music, hip hop. I mean, so now you're trying to make a presentation and you want to, enhance the presentation with like a cute little ditty. You don't have to go and hire a song, where you could literally in 40 seconds. So don't get me going off about this. I think the most important thing I can say is that Black people are some of the most creative people in the world. I think people acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Like how creative we are. We took 2 turntables and a microphone, put it into like a street light, and created hip hop, which is now the biggest
#1 genre.
cultural force in the world.
Number
You
one
got
genre.
people rapping in South Korea. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was technology. That was technology. So if you're gonna give the same community 2 turntables that you gave 2 turntables and a microphone, and we took over world culture,
Yes.
now you're giving us the most advanced technology ever created, and you're giving it to us for free. Look out. You have no idea how much creativity can be unlocked. And so rather than looking at everything from a negative, so the thing about our community, which is beautiful, is that we do respect our past. We have Black History Month. And frankly, I think we've done as good a job as anybody in making sure people do know our history. Everybody in the world knows who Harriet Tubman is. Everybody knows who Dr. King is. Everybody knows all these people. Wonderful. We have Black History Month. But at this point, I trade in about 4 Black History Months for 1 Black Future weekend. What is the Black future? Where are we going?
Yeah.
And how can we take our unique genius and magic and frankly concern for justice and make sure when you're disrupting everything AI, can we disrupt poverty? Can we disrupt pollution? Can we disrupt prisons? Can we disrupt polarization? Can we disrupt the things that are actually harming us? See, the status quo is not our friend. But if you could just disrupt the status quo and make it better or make it worse. If we're not involved, we'll go from bad to worse. If we're involved, we can go from bad to good. So that's my passion. And when I look at this next generation that's coming up, I just see nothing but genius, magic, and opportunity.
Next, I'd like to spotlight my discussion with Wemimo Abbey, co-founder of Asisu, which is a fintech company dedicated to rent reporting and credit building solutions. Wemimo shared his inspiring journey, which began with him immigrating from Nigeria and his struggle to fund college by relying on predatory loans. Now, drawing on these challenges, Abbey built a groundbreaking career, ultimately becoming one of the few Black founders to lead a unicorn tech company.
The inspiration for Isuzu stemmed from our experience in the United States. When I came to America, we didn't have a credit score. We walked into one of the biggest financial institutions to borrow money and were turned away because we didn't have a good credit score. And that led us to go borrow money from a payday loan lender at 400% interest rate.
400%. It's insane.
It's insane. It's ludicrous.
It's predatory loans.
It is. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in this country that go through that nightmare. There are 45 million people in this country that don't have a credit score, or they have a thin file. So that experience, in addition to that, my mother borrowed money from church members, sold my dad's ring, and that's how we got started in the United States. So really inspired by that experience, and my co-founder, Simir, we started Isuzu on 3 core premises. No matter where you come from, the color of your skin or your financial identity shouldn't determine where you end up in the wealthiest nation the world has ever seen. And that's what led to Isuzu. We created this idea that when you pay your rent, that data should show up on your credit score. Because when you pay your mortgage, that data shows up on your credit score. And all we wanted to do is give credit where credit is due.
Man, that's very inspirational, right? So like kind of going back to when you first got here, right? What advice would you give to someone maybe listening who might be in that same predicament, looking and, thinking about those predatory 400% payday advance loans, et cetera? Like, what would you tell them?
The first thing I'll tell them is you have to persevere against all odds. We live in a system today whereby, you're guilty until proven innocent. Your credit score, albeit doesn't quite represent exactly who you are, treats you like you're guilty until proven innocent. Doesn't make sense that I have to go into debt, right? To then show that I'm creditworthy. How am I going to get the debts in the first place? Other people, they get put on their parents' credit card at the age of 14, but folks in the inner cities, people of color, we don't have that privilege. We're usually the first of everything. So my message to anyone trying to navigate this space is you got to persevere against all odds. The folks that came before you have a spine and they've gone through struggles that is unimaginable, and you're the embodiment of infinite possibilities. Just be caught trying.
Well, man, I genuinely love what you're doing, right? I had a conversation. John Hope Bryant was actually on Financial Freestyle before, and man, he's very passionate and adamant about helping people build their credit score. When you think about your business, right, you are considered one of the first Black unicorns. Like, how do we get to unicorn status? What does it mean?
Yeah. But you talked about someone I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for, which is John Hope Bryant. He's a good friend, a mentor, and we do a lot of things together. Operation Hope, Esusu actually partners with to essentially do financial literacy. So the renters within Esusu ecosystem actually get financial literacy coaching from Operation Hope. And John O'Brien is notorious for saying financial literacy is the civil rights issue of our time. And I absolutely agree. Information is power, and what separates folks, in the south side of Chicago trying to figure it out, it's not the matter of intelligence, right? Brilliance is everywhere, but opportunity and information as a stepping stone is quite scarce. And that's the work you're doing. Absolutely. That's the work John is doing, and that's the work I wake up day in, day out with my colleagues at Esusu to do. But let's talk about the unicorn journey. I always tell people when you talk about unicorn, I tell them, the valuation is a mortgage, right? I don't get carried away with it, but I'm really grateful for what we've been able to accomplish. Just some stats. There are only 12 Black unicorns in the world. Wow. So unicorn companies, a company valued at $1 billion or above. And we're sort of lucky to be in that ecosystem and that sort of class. But I don't get carried away, and I tell my colleagues at Esusu day in, day out that a unicorn is a unicorn, but if you cannot try as much as possible to go to the next level, outperform as a business, your performance, right, is the premium you pay to earn the right to be a unicorn, right? So not just the fact that you get there is enough, right? You got to keep working hard and doing everything you can to get there. But getting to that point was really painful. 326 investors said no to us because they didn't believe that, creating win-win-win solutions for low to medium income people was investable or could become $1 billion company. But we proved them wrong. It goes back to what I said earlier. You got to be caught trying. You got to be crazy enough to believe in your ideas. And if no one believes in it, it means you have something that's contrarian. You got to keep pushing forward. And when you have that breakthrough, it's like what Alan Turing said. You got to do things that no one can imagine. And that's what we do at Esusu every day.
I love it, man. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs that watch the show. And I tell people, like, look, you go on social media, everybody is claiming that they are an entrepreneur. Better yet, they're advocating for being an entrepreneur. But it's like, look, 20% are going to fail in the first 2 years, right. 50% after 5 years, and 65% after 10, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, are going to fail.
Right.
And so when you go on your path, right, what of your upbringing and what have you learned working at PwC and bringing drinking water to 250,000 people in Africa? Like, what are some of those tangibles that allow you to continue to strive and actually become successful when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship is a really, really painful journey. I think Jensen Huang sort of said it's like eating glass. And you go through the horror day in, day out. I think my upbringing helped me be who I am today. You know, I grew up in a situation whereby what I'm doing today, no one thought I would be in this particular position, right? And, you know, that sort of expectation gives me this ability to just fall forward and perseverance. You know, my first bout with entrepreneurship was out of necessity. I used to sell Game Boy cartridges, PlayStation 2 CDs, and candy to my fellow colleagues in boarding house because I was a day student, and I marked up the items at 400%. And I got to a point where I was making more money than my mother was making at the post office.
Wow.
Right? When I saw that dynamic, I'm like, this is fascinating. How can you create value, price it appropriately, and have impact and meet the demands of folks? So Isuzu, people think like this is just a one-shot glory. It's my third rodeo. The first rodeo was essentially, how do we try as much as possible to provide access to water for, you know, folks around the world? I almost lost my life to typhoid, and I really wanted to do something about it. So my focus has always been creating solutions that have a profound impact. My second company was mapping international aid dollars on the African continent, which was acquired. And then I went on to corporate America, and then you sort of have Isuzu, which is what we're talking about today. So it's been a long journey of learning, iterating, figuring it out, eating glass, and then just facing the trials and tribulation. It's not for everyone. Everyone sees the LinkedIn post, you know, everything on Instagram. But no one sees you waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning. You know, no one sees you, you know, when things are falling apart. In entrepreneurship, something really good happens every day. And there are like 10,000 things that are crappy that happens every day. But that's just it. But be that as it may, it is so gratifying to wake up every day knowing that people are getting credit scores for the first time, knowing that, you know, people are getting mortgages, auto loans, knowing that we're keeping people in their homes when they can't parent, and then taking them on that journey of financial identity, stability, and wealth building. For me, that's one of the greatest joys.
Now, finally, let's turn to my guy, Chris Lyons, president of Web3 Media at A16Z. Lyons is always at the forefront of innovation. In our conversation, he broke down the intersection of crypto, blockchain, and Web 3.0, offering a glimpse into what's next for the tech world.
Blockchain technologies, it's a computer system that really verifies ownership, that verifies, the fact that, like, from smart contracts to non-fungible tokens to really, it's like a supercomputer. It's like a computer that's built on top of the internet that then now runs in its own ecosystem. And this is where you're seeing these different protocols and different tokens that are starting to get built, such as Ethereum and Bitcoin, which is more so of like a digital gold type of situation. But at the end of the day, people talk about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and don't even necessarily know like how to break down Web 3, like, and why do they even call it that? And the easiest way to think about it is that there's been 3 eras of the internet. The first one is just the read era, so that's just like something like an AOL or my colleague Mark Andreessen built the browser, so like Internet Explorer, like where you can actually read things on the internet, right? And then the next component was the write era, so you have read and write. That's what we call like the Web 2. And then you saw companies like Facebook and Pinterest and Airbnb and like so many different businesses in the 2010 era, Twitter, you name it, that all now came from this Web 2 era. But the big difference between what was going on in quote unquote Web 2 versus where we are now with what blockchain technologies can really encourage is this ownership layer. And so people, when they're on Instagram or when they're on YouTube, they might think that they might have 100,000 followers or 1 million followers. And you might have that, but they're not yours. They're actually, you're still having to deal with the middleman. You're still having to deal with the corporation that's taking 30%, or Spotify that we love Spotify, but from an artist standpoint, only 0.5% of all artists make over $50,000 a year or more on those platforms. And that's because of take rates. And those take rates are applied on to so many of these Web 2 businesses that then it's great for the corporations, but it's bad for, the ownership is bad for creators. It's bad for, people that want to make a living and not have to deal with someone else taking a huge cut. Apple takes 30% of all payment of all App Store transactions. YouTube can take up to 30% of all your videos and monetization. And so and the worst part about it is that if you look at the internet over the past 15, 20 years, you've kind of seen this halt of innovation. Mm-hmm. You've seen, like, if you look at the App Store right now, it's literally the same 15, 20 companies that constantly stay at the top of the charts because we have this infrastructure that is currently just literally stable, defaulted in terms of innovation. But blockchain technologies are going to really open and unlock this wave, which is Web3, which is what we consider ownership. Mm-hmm. So read, write, and own, which is the third layer. And through that, you're going to now be able to have 0-to-1 engagement with your fans, where if you want to sell something directly to an artist, or, if think about, Basquiat back in the day, he was sold a painting for $25,000. 100 years later, not 100 years later, 50 years later, that same piece is now sold for $100 million.
Yeah.
Right. And how much was he able to take from that?
He gets none of that.
Exactly.
Except for the original
right.
25K.
But if that was on chain, mm-hmm. what happens now is that there's a smart contract that's already written inside of it. So, and you can say, I'm going to get 10% of every single secondary transaction that's now being sold. And so that's on the blockchain, and it's inscribed and it's written through code, mm-hmm. makes it guaranteed process that all these transactions moving forward, you're now going to get a 10% cut from 25,000 to 250,000. You'll get 10% from 250,000 to 2 million, and constantly going on and on. Mm-hmm. And without having to deal with a third-party structure that then is going to take their cut at the same time. And so when you think about that applying to so many different industries and where it's going to go, it's a really exciting time and our belief is that it's going to not just, right now we're in the infrastructure side where we're really building out the rails that can help really, create the next generation of the internet using these things. But even more so, which I'm personally excited about, is you're going to start to see brand new social networks that are going to come out where you can actually, have 100% ownership of your followers. New music platforms are going to come out where, instead of having to make 1 million streams in order, or 1 million purchases for an artist to have a sustainable living, now all you need is 1,000 true fans that can now every day buy your CD, buy your merch, buy your tickets, follow, and you can create an actual living off of that. Yeah. And so, decentralization and ownership, I think, is the real future. And it's what we talk about all the time. You talk about financial freedom and financial, ability to run your own life, but we still are in all of these systems that are creating centralized ownership. And I think that the only true path forward is, decentralization and blockchain.
Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Financial Freestyle. Hope we've given you guys something to consider as you continue on your own financial journey. Be sure to join us on next week for a brand new episode.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.
Welcome to Living Not So Fabulously.
We all have something money-related that we want to hide.
Our podcast brings you these stories.
Living Not So Fabulously from Yahoo Finance drops on your favorite platform every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time.